I'm Babz Rawls Ivy, and this is Lovebabz Love Talk. I'm talking today. Someone is calling in. Guess who is my guest today? Gerald L. Hector, Executive Vice President and Chief Business Officer at Morehouse College. And he is this year's keynote speaker at the Jamaican American Connection that is happening this September. And so, this is Kay Holness's baby with her team and board. And they've been doing this for quite some time now. And I'm excited that I get to talk to him because he's the keynote. So let me give you a little bit of information about him, because he has an impressive resume. And I'm going to ask him a few questions. I think we know some of the same people after reading his bio. So he's a CPA. As I said, he's Executive Vice President and Chief Business Officer for Morehouse College in Atlanta. Woohoo! Across the street from Spelman. He's been in the role for approximately 4 months, where he oversees a majority of all the business and administrative functions of the college. Human resources, information technology, business office, student accounts, auxiliary services, and facilities. Man, that's a lot. That's like 100,000 jobs. But prior to joining Morehouse, he was the vice president for financial affairs and university treasurer for Ivy League Cornell University. And then before that, which if that's not impressive enough, let's see, he created a 10-year master plan for the campus, both first for the college. I want to get to the part where he also held vice president of business and finance at Johnson C. Smith University, baby, at HBCU, which is down the street from my school that is now shuttered, Barber Scotia College. So if he was there, he probably knows my beloved teacher, Dr. Lynette Fox, who was at that time when I knew her, when I left, and some years later, she was chairing like math or something, like accounting, business department. So, and he was there in 2006. So, yeah. So I'm excited to talk to him. And he was the first ever unrestricted cash reserve of $10 billion. He went to Johnson C. Smith after serving as a corporate controller for the United Negro College Fund. Now, here's the thing. I was Miss UNCF in like the 80s, the early 80s. So we got a lot of threads here. So I'm looking forward to his conversation because I want to hear his message. And in true Caribbean fashion, 18 gazillion jobs. In true Caribbean fashion. True. So he's an avid golfer. He's a reader. He's inquisitive about how he can make an impact on the world around him each and every day. So I'm looking forward to talking to him. Let's see. He's got an extensive bio. So he's from Jamaica. Of course he's from Jamaica. He's going to be keynoting the Jamaican Connection. So he continues to be a fierce proponent for making significant change in how student athletes are treated in regards to their futures, being in high school in Jamaica. He is married to his college sweetheart, Sharon Kay, and their union has produced 3 beautiful children, Joshua, Timothy, and Kezia. And so before relocating to Atlanta, he taught men's Bible study at Calvary Baptist Church and continues to mentor and host young people who are interested in becoming chief financial officers or social entrepreneurs. So I like this. I really like this, and I'm looking forward to him. And I want to see if he'll give me a little FYI on what he's going to talk about. Like some pearls of what he's going to bring to the podium when he steps up to the for the event. So thank you, Kay Holness, for always bringing me some of the best guests ever. And so I look forward to talking to this brother. And let's see. Oh, and another thing, he went to Howard. He graduated from Howard with a bachelor's degree in accounting. It was a master's in Christian thought from the Gordon Cornwall Theological Seminary. Oh, that's a lot, brother. And he raised both his financial acumen and spiritual grounding to mentor and engage a host of individuals on the issues of today. So Wow. Impressive, Mr. Hector. So he'll be calling me in, and he's from one of my favorite places, Kingston, Jamaica. I love Kingston, girl. So so he's gonna talk about that. So I wanna really get into a good conversation. So it'll be a good 45 minute conversation, and I'm looking forward to um talking about the Jamaican American connection, which is coming up. And if you haven't gotten your tickets, get your tickets because it's a wonderful event. It's one of my favorite events, and it kicks off gala season. And this will probably be the only gala I go to all year. But that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. So let's see. Let's see. So he should be calling in any minute now. He has the phone number, and I told him to call in at 10 after. I said, call in at 10 after. And what happened? Is he on? Oh, I didn't even see that. Good morning, Gerald.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, it's so nice to talk to you. I'm just going on, and my producer comes in and is like, he's on the line.
Okay.
How are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much.
How's everything in the hot ATL?
It's busy. A lot going on. Atlanta is always going to be Atlanta, a great city. My newly adopted city. I've been here since May, so I'm still learning my way around, learning streets, highways, and restaurants and things like that. But it's been fun thus far.
And the traffic is a pain in the butt.
The traffic, yes, that traffic is serious. It's all hours of the day. But I used to live in Charlotte, North Carolina, as well.
I know. I went to Barbara Scotia.
Is becoming the same way.
I went to Barbara Scotia because you were at Johnson C. Smith.
That is correct. I was at Johnson C. Smith. I was the CFO there for about almost 9 years. I just rounded up to a decade. Feels that way, but I was there for the CFO there for some time.
So my beloved teacher who taught me at Barbara Scotia College, which is just down the road in Concord, Dr. Lynette Fox. Do you know Dr.?
Oh, Dr. Fox. Yes, Dr. Fox, Lynette Fox, a wonderful lady.
Oh, she is my
know her
love.
Very well.
She was my accounting principal's teacher at Barbara Scotia. And
okay.
and I used to babysit for her when her kids were little. Now they're all grown and all this other kind of stuff. But yes, so
yeah. Small world, huh?
Small world. When I saw that, I was like, I bet you he knows Dr. Fox.
I do know Dr. Fox, yeah.
So
that is awesome.
In true Caribbean fashion, in true Jamaican style, you got a lot of responsibilities. I know of no Jamaican that keeps one duty. It is in your DNA to have like all kinds of things going on.
Yeah, it's almost like a mantle that we're given that we have to carry, but we carry it well. And some days are good days, some days are bad days, some are in between, but thank God the good days outweigh the bad days and the in between. So we get up every morning energized and re-energized to do it all over again. But it's a lot of fun because I really do enjoy what I do, working with young people and trying to create the future leaders of the world. So it's always fun for me to get up and think about new and creative ways for me to engage with these students and young adults. So it's always good.
So you're at Morehouse, which is a historically Black college, and is steeped in rich history. I mean, everybody and who is anybody in the Black glitterati and in the Black history has gone or come through. I mean, MLK, Spike Lee, Samuel L. Jackson, a whole bunch of people have come through Morehouse. So what is it about Morehouse that sort of garners that level of respect and protection? I think people are very protective over Morehouse.
I think Morehouse, like most HBCUs, they're special in their own right. They were founded with a specific purpose, and that purpose is to educate. I usually say the least of these. But when you look at what our HBCUs have done, they have provided opportunities for people on the edge or the margins that society probably would say, hey, would never make it. But more and more, as I spend time in higher education, I'm realizing that we have scholars all throughout. So here at Morehouse, and I'm also a Howard grad.
I
So here at
know.
Morehouse, you see it. You see it every
Bison.
day. You see it every day. Our president says to us, where else in America you'll see over 2,000 young African American males at the lunch hour traversing one spot, academically gifted, motivated for excellence, and it's really something to behold. I started in May, and I experienced my first what's called NSO, New Student Orientation, which is really, for me, was almost a rite of passage to see how the Morehouse College family comes together with the Spelman College family and this AUC kind of family atmosphere. It was definitely something to behold. It was spiritual on some levels to see the parents, to see the students. So I think it's that ethos around Morehouse, the mystique, and the excellence that the institution stands for, I think, is what draws people here on a regular and consistent basis.
So now, how did you get to Howard as a student? How did you get there?
I got to Howard. I played 3 sports while I was in high school, and track and field is how I got to Howard. I was offered a track and field scholarship. It wasn't my first sport. Football and cricket were my first sports. But,
is there cricket at Howard?
No, there's no cricket at Howard. So I was offered a track and field scholarship, but track and field wasn't my strongest sport. But the track coach at Kingston College saw me practicing for soccer, and he said, "Man, you have some speed." Didn't know what that meant, so they asked me if I would come and just be a part of a relay race for the track team, and the rest is history. And I matriculated at Howard for 4 years. I studied accounting for 4 years at Howard.
Wow. Did you pledge?
No, I didn't pledge.
Okay.
I didn't have the.
You didn't have time.
Didn't have time between being an accounting major and a full-fledged, full scholarship athlete. And I'll be honest, being from the islands, it was not something that piqued my interest in that regard.
I tell you what else we have in common. You were at the UNCF.
I was there. I was the corporate controller there for about 6 years.
I was their queen in the early '80s. I was Miss UNCF when I was in college.
At Barber Scotia?
Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's awesome.
And
I tell people all the time, never speak bad about folks because you never know who you're going to meet.
UNCF has been so much a part of my life, because in here in Connecticut, we had a huge contingency of folks who raised money for UNCF. And so the telethons were a big deal here when I was a young woman growing up. And so and it's no accident my name is Rawls, and Lou Rawls was hosting that whole telethon thing for many, many years. And so I have a real connection to UNCF that way. So yeah,
that is awesome.
Man,
that is truly awesome.
So you are HBC steeped and UNCF rooted.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but
yes, ma'am. I say HBCUs are in my DNA.
Well, you did a little time at an Ivy League school, Cornell.
Yes, ma'am.
Up there, the Great North, which I know had to be a shock to your system because of the weather.
It was tough. It was tough. I spent almost 6.5 years up there. I was just up there this weekend. My daughter is finishing up high school at Ithaca High, so I commute back and forth on some weekends between Ithaca and Atlanta. And my wife and I thought it best not to move her with 1 year left.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't want to do that. And she's comfortable and she's doing fairly well. So I do commute back and forth. I was just there this past weekend.
Mm-hmm. Now,
it's a beautiful city, Ithaca, New York.
I have a good friend who graduated from Cornell, and
okay.
So we are yet again kind of connected, right? And she's from the Dominican Republic. Well, her roots are from the Dominican Republic. So
okay,
I'm surrounded by Caribbean people that I love. So this is a wonderful thing. So you're coming here September 14th to be the keynote for the Jamaican American Connection, and people are delighted and are buzzing about you coming. So what does this mean to you to do this?
Well, it means a lot. It means a lot. Kay Holness is a cousin of mine, and for a number of years she has been asking, how can I make my way up there? And I've always, my calendar never made room for anything extra. You know, raising three kids and the demanding job that I have, and my
Mm-hmm.
calendar sometimes is not my own because it's taken over by others. I just have to show up at certain places. It never got a chance to work, but I consider it an honor because I spend a lot of time with young people, not only in a setting of higher education, but I also teach Bible study and to high school students when I was living in Charlotte, and most recently males. But it really is an opportunity for me to come and share a little bit about what I see happening in the world, the changing in the demographics in the world, the socioeconomic changes that are occurring, and just try to find ways to encourage not only young people but their parents to stay the course
Mm-hmm.
and to be a little bit more purposeful about their children's future.
Mm-hmm.
And not only for their children, but for them themselves, because we're seeing a world that is changing. And quite honestly, some folks are falling further and further behind because of a lack of information. So I hope to come and share a little bit about my journey, a little bit about what I do, and a little bit about what I see on a prospective basis, and try to get people excited or just to think, even in that moment for this event, just to think about the possibilities, and more importantly, to think about what's next. What's next for our nation? What's next for our world? And quite honestly, what's next for them? Because for too long, we have been sitting here, and it's time for us to move on. But where do we move to? And we need more thought leaders out here talking about these things. You have people that are much more highly educated and carry more gravitas than I do. But, you know, in Jamaica, we have this expression, every mickle makes a muckle. So I'm going to try to come and spend some time sharing with these young people, and whatever else my cousin Kay wants me to do, I'll just have to do.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of things that are going on in the world, do you have anxiety? Are you feeling or sensing anxiety around what is happening in immigration? And does Morehouse? Because I know when I was in college, I had a huge Caribbean. We had a huge Caribbean student body. That's how I got to know people from the various Caribbean islands, because they came to my
Hmm.
school, and from Africa as well. So, so I'm just wondering what is happening on college campuses, particularly historically Black college campuses. What is the anxiety level of immigrant students?
Um, Here at Morehouse, we are trying. We have a new president, Dr. David Thomas, who is doing an outstanding job. He's been here about 20 months, and I'm here at Morehouse. He asked me if I would join him here at Morehouse, and he has a focus, something called Morehouse Beyond Borders, that he is testing, and it definitely gets to the point that you're making. Two things happen in higher education today across the spectrum, HBCU, PWI, whatever, is that there is a change that's occurring. Socioeconomic patterns are causing institutions to have to look to find alternative sources of revenue. And one of those big sources of revenue are international students, because more than likely they are going to be students that are paying full freight because they don't qualify for certain aid that is here in the United States. But what are enrollment strategies, admission strategies? Those are things folks are looking at regardless of the institution across the board, because that has to take place for these institutions to continue to not only survive but thrive. So Morehouse is definitely going to be in that realm, looking along that line. My alma mater, Howard, is doing the same thing. So even though there are anxieties around a whole host of issues on college campuses, they are seeing where our Caribbean students and our students from Africa bring cultural competencies and other flavors to the campus that quite honestly are needed.
Mm-hmm.
And as more and more people look to the diaspora, as our history is being retaught and things that have been left out of history books, and folks are learning more and more about it, the international aspects of what we do becomes even more pronounced. So you see campuses today that are creating study abroad programs. Morehouse has one that we're reconfiguring and trying to enhance so that we can get that experience as well. So it is a holistic approach that's taking place on college campuses, trying to mitigate and push back a little bit on some of the narratives that are there, because at the end of the day, our international community definitely brings a different perspective and actually opens up the campus culturally to other nations and other people. And personally, I think that's a great thing.
I think so too. I mean, that's how I learned about other cultures. I mean, I'm from Connecticut, and so I didn't see any Africans or Caribbean people when I was growing up. I knew Puerto Ricans because Puerto Ricans
Right.
lived in my neighborhood, but I had no awareness of any of the other folks from other islands or, I had no idea. So it wasn't until I went to college that it was like a cornucopia. I mean, it really was illuminating and interesting and engaging to sort of meet people from so many places, and made friends and got to travel to where they were from. And that's how I got around and learned, the myriad of islands that make up the Caribbean. So yeah, I'm hoping that these schools will continue and expand and broaden that global reach, because it is really necessary. So talk to me.
It is necessary.
Talk to me, Gerald, about the cost of education, right? I know HBCUs are still the best bang for our buck, right? Still world-class education that is affordable, but yet it is still out of reach for a lot of us. So what is that
Yeah.
landscape looking like these days?
It is. I guess a single word could be tough, and that's part of what I want to share with the students and their parents, is staying the course and the focus. One of the things that's going to happen, or is going to happen, it's a matter of when, not if anymore, is that the demographics of the nation, the shifts that are taking place, are real. So it's posited by the year 2027, the minority student will become the majority student on college campuses all across America. That is one statistic. Another statistic, however, the more troubling one in my mind, is that those same students, or the same groups of students that are coming through in those demographics, are the ones that lack the ability to pay. So the challenge becomes where institutions can find benefactors, alumni, donors who are interested in seeing these schools remain viable and thriving. They're going to have to get engaged at a different level. Why? Because our students, quite honestly, they can't afford the college experience. So I'll give you a statistic.
Mm-hmm.
The National Association of College and University Business Officers put out an annual study on what's called tuition discounting. The national average for private institutions, which most of our HBCUs are, a good number of our HBCUs are, the tuition discounting percent is 52.2%.
Wow.
So what does that mean? It basically means that let's round it to 50%, for every dollar of revenue these schools bring in, students coming, they only realize 50 cents in cash. And that cash has to cover operating budgets, it has to cover capital budgets, it has to cover everything that the institution needs to operate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as an accountant and a finance professional, we all know that's not sustainable. So the model of higher education is what's being challenged right now. So I'll be asked this question all the time. Well, you were the vice president and treasurer for Cornell University, an Ivy League institution. You were at an HBCU. You went and had that experience, and you're back at an HBCU. What does that mean? I tell people, I answer in this way. If we're serious about it, we can look at what I call the 3 Ps, is people, process, and performance. And what we are focused on here at Morehouse under Dr. Thomas's leadership are those 3, and then some, because we realize that you can't pigeonhole yourself to just basically say, I am this thing, but I have to look at what is happening around me on the macro level and then bring that to the micro level. And you'll be surprised how many parents don't understand this in its proper context. So we have to be more about educating our parents, educating our students about the options about HBCUs. We're so tiny, but we provide most of, for example, the black engineers and the black doctors in this nation
Yes.
are graduates of HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
But we have not done the job of educating and informing in a way that we saturate the nation with what HBCUs mean to the United States of America. And quite honestly, now being back at an HBCU, and one as prestigious and as noteworthy as Morehouse College, that's probably that is something that I'd like to do while I'm here. So these are the things that I hope that will catch on as folks are seeing the browning of America continues, because what's going to happen is the more well-resourced institutions, your Ivy Leagues and your Ivy Plus and other small, wealthy liberal arts institutions, they have it figured out that they have to maintain enrollment and they have to change in order to attract minority students. So that's already in the works.
Mm-hmm.
There's a delicate balance, and it's going to happen. It's not if, but when.
And I do believe that HBCUs. I'm a graduate of HBCU. I love it, but I do think that people think that there is something much more attractive about PWIs, and I always have to take issue with people who sort of think that that is the level or the model of success. Now, granted, I believe that we, black peoples from wherever you are, should be everywhere we want to be. I believe that. However, I do know that there is something quite magical and special about HBCUs for our children coming out of high school and being in such a nurturing environment. I know of no one who has gone to an HBCU and the first thing that they say is it was a nurturing environment. There is no security sleeping while you're black or walking on campus while you're black. There's just you on campus. There's just student government. There's just, all these kinds of things. There's no black student union. There's no black. It's just that's where you go. And so I'm hoping, and I'm seeing as we're starting to see more and more white folks apply to these historically black colleges, that that their greatness is becoming on par, or people are starting to notice that their greatness is just as good as any other Ivy League school.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. People will say to me, "Well, Gerald, you've had," because I was also the CFO at Ithaca College, and in the fall of I've been black all my life, right? And I went to Ithaca College, a wonderful school in upstate New York. Cornell is on East Hill, Ithaca College is on South Hill, and I transitioned from Ithaca College over to Cornell. So I had a wonderful experience at both of those institutions. But in the fall of 2015, you remember when they had the racial issues at Missouri, and it spread all across college campuses across America?
Yes.
And everyone was, well, Ithaca College, we were knee deep in it. And it was an interesting experience for me because I'm also a seminary student, I'm a seminary graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the throes of my seminary studies. And, the good Lord has jokes. And I was placed in this environment where I was the only vice president of color. And we went through this issue, and the students of color had a legitimate issue. And we're going through it, but they'll say to us, well, we don't want to speak to anyone in the administration because you're part of the administration, Mr. Hector. Yeah, we know what you did at UNCF and Johnson C. Smith, and you went to Howard and all that stuff, but you're a part of the administration, so we really don't want to have that. We just can't talk to you about it. So at that point in time, you either become someone who is caring and nurturing of what I got at Howard University, and being someone just part of going to sit by and let this thing play out. So I decided to act and got involved. But what was interesting is, as we were having these discussions, we took Beverly Tatum's book, Why Are All the Black Children Sitting Together in the Cafeteria?
Yes.
If you haven't read that book, I think that's an excellent book.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I took my team. I had a team of about 350 people, and every Wednesday we had a book discussion. We took a chapter a week, And we had folks come around and share about their experiences. Obviously, there was mostly a Caucasian group of folks that came, but we had one gentleman who he's married to a Caucasian lady, African American gentleman, and he just shared some of the stuff that he went through. What dawned on me is that it's not only that people might have differences about color of skin or socioeconomic status or what. There is an element of ignorance that I realized in that folks never sat down to speak to someone that's of a different color about their experience.
Mm-hmm.
So most of what they figure about us, I glean from those times, is that they get it from the television or they get it from somebody else. And one of the most powerful things happening in those discussions was a Caucasian gentleman said, after going through the discussions on a weekly basis, he realized when he went home that his family, they harbored some thoughts that he didn't agree with. And to hear a grown man say that, to me, was extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So that same African American gentleman has gone to another institution and he has started these same discussions. And he was just noted, his efforts were just noted in their local newspaper about having these tough conversations. And quite honestly, what we're going to see, I think, is more and more people are going to get out of their comfort zones to say, hey, look, this is a nation that needs to come together and heal. And are we going to allow a minority of people to cause everyone to think in their respective groups and not understand that we are humans and that we have a history and we have to acknowledge what happened in history and we have to work collectively to solve it. And I think as those brave souls step out of the darkness and into the light to start having these engaging discussions, I think we'll see things happen for the better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the eternal optimist, so it's very hard for me to see the glass as half empty, because I always believe that if there's a will, there's a way. And if people are willing to sit down and have good conversations about what our common goals are, we can get it done. I firmly believe that, and I'll continue to believe that, regardless of whatever institution I'm at. We have to do better as people in general, because we have to coexist.
So talk a little bit about your theological studies and why and how does that serve you these days?
It serves me well. My grandmother, who was a resident of New Haven, Connecticut, that's whenever I used to travel from Jamaica to the States, I stayed with her in New York, in New Haven, right off Whaley Avenue. She first lived on Willis Street.
Oh,
and then she moved over to, I think it's Whaley.
Uh-huh.
Not Whaley. I forgot the other name of the street. But she was a person who would basically drag me to church.
Mm-hmm.
She would drag me to church with her. When she came to visit in Jamaica, she would drag us to church, even though we only had soccer clothes and all that kind of stuff. But she made sure we had church clothes, and we went to church. And she was my influence on church and getting a spiritual grounding. But like most young people, you never really realize that God has his hand on you. And most people don't know this, but I shared it publicly the other day. My mom passed away when I was about 2 years old, so I never really knew my mom. But it wasn't until later on in life, two of my aunts or my grandmother shared with my spouse before she passed away, my grandma passed away, that, my mom was advised not to have children. And she told everyone she wants to have a child, and I'm still here. So when you look at all those things, and then I got to Howard University, and my track coach, William P. Moultrie, the one that I'm writing this book about, hopefully to release it this fall, he's a Baptist minister. And then I got to United Negro College Fund under Bill Gray. Mm-hmm. Bill Gray is a Baptist minister.
Mm-hmm.
And they always said to me, Gerald, there's something about you that you have not realized yet. We see something, but we don't know what it is. So when I got to Johnson C. Smith, I was working, Dorothy Yancey hired me into higher education, the president of Johnson C. Smith. And while there, I met another gentleman, Dr. Jeffrey Smith, who was a seminarian, and we were just trying to solve problems. But coming to higher education, I just saw young people that were going through some of the things I was going through. When I went through in high school in Jamaica, I lived in Trinidad and Tobago as well. So I've lived in 3 different countries, and every country is the same issue. The same issue is that collectively people don't know where they're going. And when you think about my grandmother's foundation, Coach Moultrie, Bill Gray, Dorothy Yancey, Jeffrey Smith, I was just enveloped in that sense of there's something more. And what pushed it over the edge was I started attending the Park Church under the leadership of Bishop Claude Richard Alexander, and he went to Gordon Conwell Seminary for his doctoral degree. And worshiping there, teaching Bible study, my wife and I co-taught Bible study for high school students. And we just basically, one day I was getting ready I said I need to further my studies as an accountant. I was going to go back to get my MBA and do all these kinds of things. And every step that I made, something, a hurdle was in my way.
Mm-hmm.
And the seminary route just came about literally one day. I'm like, well, what am I going to do next? And riding home one day, I just had a sense that, hey, you need to go to seminary. Don't ask me where the sense came from, but I do believe that, the Holy Spirit said something. And I went through that experience, and it was a wonderful experience. I started out with a master's in divinity, but life happens again. Parents passed away. I had to I explain it this way. Over that period of time, I worked for 5 different bosses, 2 cities, and 2 degree changes in order to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So when I speak to young people today, I tell them my seminary degree took me 10 years, but I use what an old mother in a church told me once. She said, Lord, whatever you're taking me through, take me through slowly so I don't have to come back to it. And that is how I have viewed my theological journey. It helps me today just by my nature. I'm a people person at heart, and my nature is to help people wherever I can. But my seminary experience has also shown me that there is more to this life than simply trying to work hard, climb some ladder to get to some spot, and then get to that spot, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good message.
Get to that spot, and all you're going to do now is trying to protect the position that you've elevated yourself to. I've seen a lot of wealthy people struggle with that, but my life is really in service of others, trying to help where I can, and quite honestly, to serve God as best as I can with the abilities and the avenues and the doors that He's opened for me, and the opportunities to share like I'll be doing next Saturday.
I'm so looking forward to hearing you. So, what are you reading these days? Because it says you're an avid reader. What's on your nightstand these days?
Right now on my nightstand, you're going to laugh, but it's primarily financial related documents. I am going back and I'm looking into things around. T.D. Jakes' latest book is a good one. I just finished reading that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to give a couple. The Michelle Obama book is a good one.
I was going to ask you if you read that.
I haven't finished it yet, though. And most of my time right now is not necessarily reading, but writing. I'm finishing my first book.
Yes. How's that going?
It's going to be out hopefully in September this month. Working with the publisher on it. We're in the final stages. Just reviewed the final manuscript. But
and so, what was that process like?
Outline for my next one as well.
How's the writing process? Did it come easy? Was it natural? Did you have to dig? What happened? Do you feel like difficult. Writing is what you love or necessary?
I love writing. I do. I really do love writing. I've written white papers for the higher education industry. I've written articles for journals and stuff for enrollment management and so on. But I'll tell you a funny story. when I was young, I was about 16 years old. Remember when Apple IIe's came out?
Yes.
Yeah, the Apple IIe and the Apple IIc. I was living in Aylsham, a community in Jamaica, and I was training for soccer. I played Manning Cup for Kingston College, and we had tour days. And because I drove, my dad would let me drive his car sometimes. I go down in the morning for practice, and I'll come home between practice and I'll write. So I wrote two feature length movies and mailed them off to Burbank, California. Didn't know what I was doing. I had it on a 5.25-inch floppy drive and wrote it, sent it off. They actually wrote me back and said, "Sir, you need an agent. You don't just send stuff in here." That just burst my bubble. But in 1988, Hurricane Gilbert came and destroyed all of it. Lost my floppy drive, my hard copy printouts. I was so brokenhearted. But, you know, I always loved to write. This book has been a labor of love as well. Coach Moultrie did quite a bit for me. But I'll tell you, writing my first book, now I see the wisdom and need for a publisher. Because when you write, you can write just purely out of your emotions and forget that you're writing with someone to read it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was different. So to have red ink and corrections and everything, I felt like I was in grade school, but it was worth it.
Well, I'm looking forward to your conversation. I know I can't wait to get the book when it comes out. And
Yes, ma'am.
And I know that you will deliver a damn good keynote. The 9th Annual Trailblazer Scholarship Banquet is Saturday, September 14, 2019. I have the pleasure of talking with Gerald L. Hector, who is currently the Executive Vice President and Chief Business Officer for Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. Have you gotten any golf in this summer? Before I let you go?
But not as much as I'd like. I've been invited out, but I can't make it because on the weekends I try to go home. Or if I don't go home to Ithaca, I drive up to Charlotte to see my dad and sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's all warm weather, they tell me, so I'll get it in all year round pretty much.
Oh, yeah. You know what?
Compared to Ithaca, New York.
Oh, listen, it will be hot in Atlanta till November. Oh, you'll be running the air conditioner till November. So,
yeah. It is warm. I will tell you that. My wife and daughter came down because my daughter is in the college circuit now, so she came down and she toured
Spelman,
Georgia Tech and Spelman.
Okay.
Yeah, Georgia Tech and Spelman. And when they were down here, because they were up in Ithaca, the first thing that hit them is how hot it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm adjusting. AC is my friend.
Well, listen, get used to it. You're going to have to do like other people, like flee the South in the summer and come up north. and then go back.
Well, I'm looking forward to come to New Haven. I'm looking to come up and see Kay and probably see a couple of other folks and just have a good time. I haven't been up to New Haven in quite some time.
Well, I think you'll love it. I think you will be shocked at how the city has changed very much. And so I know Kay will tour you around and you'll get to see, like Yale added a whole 2 new colleges.
I know.
That looks like your old colleges.
When I was at Cornell, I was fortunate enough to sit with a group of folks 3 times a year from all the Ivy Leagues and Ivy Pluses. So your Ivy Leagues, all 8 of them, and your Dukes, your Stanfords, and so on. That was a blessing because I got to see how the well-resourced institutions operate. And Yale was doing some amazing things. All of them are doing amazing things. Cornell, too, is doing amazing things. They've opened a campus in the middle of Manhattan called Cornell Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just amazing. And if I am to dream a little bit, that is where I see our HBCUs moving to that level of impact, not only on this nation, but the world. I'm a firm believer in that. I just have to figure out how we can get people to think bigger.
Mm-hmm.
As I tell people sometimes, is that it's hard, very hard, to think big when small has you. But I believe right now in this dispensation in time, enough people are seeing not only the value of our HBCUs, but how our HBCUs in general can transform not only this nation, but the world.
I believe you. And I stand right
Yeah.
next to you, brother. I stand right there with you. So thank you, Gerald, for your time.
Thank you so much.
I so appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you and talking with you and meeting your family and listening to the good word that you're going to bring September 14th at the Jack Trailblazer Scholarship Gala.
I'm looking forward to it. I might be traveling by myself. All my kids are in college, pretty much. So having them to break away is going to be tough. But we'll
get
see.
it.
We'll try our best.
Listen, sometimes you might want to fly solo because, then you got to figure out who has this, who needs that, where, what. Listen, I got kids. I know.
Yeah, they're enjoying themselves. I have a graduate student at Howard, and my second son is at Ithaca College. He's a swimmer there.
Wow. So, what? So you got them following you. They're following you. I see it. Ithaca, Howard. It's pretty cool.
Well, we had an unwritten rule in the house is that you will do well academically. That's our expectation, but you will do an extracurricular activity, and they all chose sports and music. So they are doing their thing.
That's good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And I will see you on the 14th.
All right.
And thank you all for everybody listening in. And thank you, K Wholeness, for connecting me to Mr. Hector. I appreciate you greatly. And y'all have a good day.
Thank you so much.
I'll be back tomorrow.
All right. All right, great.
All right, Harry.